And Dr. Jon Steinbrecher, who is the head of the Mid-American Conference. Dr. Jon, great to see you as always. I did tell you it's better at the MAC basketball tournament, but we need you for real answers here tonight.
Les, it's always good to be with you.
All right, let's talk. Number one, how did you get into this position of where you are the spokesperson, among other things, for the cancellation, the potential cancellation, I'm saying minutes here, of college football? How did you get there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's just been a conversation over weeks of, can we proceed into the fall? And we've continued to watch and monitor, speak with our medical advisors, speak with an array of state and local health officials, governmental entities that are involved in this, and then across our governance groups and student athletes and all of this. And as we came into last week, we were coming up against some deadlines in which we were thinking about, well, we were coming to a point where teams were going to be coming in for their fall camps and preparing for the start of competition that would have begun, essentially end of August or Labor Day weekend.
Right.
And so it seemed prudent to start making some decisions. Can we go forward? And we went round and round and examined a host of things, but it ultimately came down to conversations we continued to have with our medical advisory group. And they simply said, we do not see a path forward for you to have competition and do it safely.
Okay, so let's make this as simple as possible. I'm going to ask a simple question. I know it's not a simple answer. Are we talking about the difference basically between the student athletes and health, or the colleges and money?
Well, in our case, it was about the student athletes and health. I think it would be naive to suggest that those involved in this enterprise aren't paying attention to what decisions mean in terms of the financial ramifications. And in our case, we don't know what all of that will play out to be. It'll depend on, are we joined by other teams and conferences? Do we play some events in the spring? How a host of things play out. However, and I continue to emphasize this wasn't a dollars and cents decision. This was a health and wellness decision. We made this decision based on the fact that we did not feel comfortable putting our student athletes in a decision in which there were a host of unknowns. Participation. Go ahead, Les.
No, I was just going to say, and it goes further. If you're dealing with a college and college students, if you're going to have football, you got to have students around, and that may not be a good thing at this point.
Well, all of our campuses are making really valiant attempts to get their campuses open, and we're hopeful that occurs. And what we do in a classroom is much different than what we do on an athletic field.
Right.
There is no way you can social distance in your athletic activities. You can do that through your educational activities. And so we need to differentiate among that. But getting back to health and welfare issues, for participants in sports, you go into those and you have a really good idea of what the known risks are. If I'm a football player or a volleyball player, I know I might injure an ankle or a knee or a shoulder, whatever that may be. Those are fairly well understood. With the COVID-19 virus right now, we don't understand all the ramifications about it.
Right.
This is not simply the flu. And one of the issues that's coming up front and center is the issue of myocarditis. Inflammation of the heart damages the heart. And we don't know if that's simply a short-term issue, which in and of itself is not positive in any sense of the word, but is it potentially a long-term issue? Is this something that could stay with someone for the rest of their lives? We're not trying to be inflammatory or scare people, but we want to make sure we understand what's at play here. And our doctors have been on that for some time now, and you're starting to see that bubble up through the media. And so in our case, we decided there were simply too many unknowns. Let's back away for right now.
All right. How about spring football? Is that possible? Is it still on the table?
That's a good question. In our case, we talked about we are postponing. We didn't cancel our sports. And we talked about that it would be our intention to provide competitive opportunities for our student athletes in the spring. I'm putting together working groups in all of our fall sports that will include administrators, coaches, student athletes, faculty, medical advisors, and I'm charging them with laying out essentially a year calendar and examining how can we do a season in the spring, how can we do a season in the fall, and what are all the factors that have to go into that. And I would remind people, you say, well, you can't do that. Right now, our fall sports all have spring practice seasons, which are intensive practice activities. And in a number of the sports, they have competitive opportunities in the spring. So they're doing a lot of that right now. So it's transitioning and thinking about, okay, how do we make this work? Now, does that mean we're playing a 12-game football schedule in the spring? I don't know. It's probably not likely, but I'm not going to prejudge this. We're going to work the issue, see what the possibilities are, and then develop our plans. The virus is going to tell us whether we can go or not. Hopefully, we'll have knocked this thing down as we're entering a new year. We'll continue to see increased and improved treatment modalities. Testing will become more readily available, more affordable. We'll be able to do more of it at point of care and get immediate results. All those things will play a role. And then we'll also engage our student athletes in a pretty in-depth conversation about, okay, this is what it looks like we can do. Will you find that satisfactory in terms of the competitive activities that are available? Or would you prefer to wait until next fall? For instance, we don't know if there will be fall NCAA championships in a number of sports. And if those are postponed or canceled, do they get rolled into the spring? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. If there's not a spring NCAA championship in a sport, will our student athletes want to proceed? That'll be one of the factors, among others. And so there's a lot of things to talk about. I've been since March, as we've been dealing with this virus, I'm spending a lot of time saying, I don't know, because we don't know. But what I can do is put in place processes where we can build a plan, and then if circumstances permit, we will implement that plan.
Dr. Jon Steinbrecher is here. He is the commissioner of the Mid-American Conference and in charge of all the top football conferences at this point. Dr. Jon, you're the first to come out publicly about canceling fall sports. Well, there are some others who haven't made that decision yet, or haven't announced it. What advice would you give to some of these commissioners of other conferences who haven't gone with their plan yet?
Well, I tend to believe there will be one or more other conferences joining us. We'll see what happens. They've all got medical advisory groups around them, lots of people weighing in. And what I hope they're able to do is what we were able to do. And that was make a decision based on the science of it and not the politics involved. And I think if we're able to do that, I think we'll come up with really good decisions that are in the best interest of the student athletes and the coaches and all around the enterprise of intercollegiate athletics.
Well, you got tough decisions, and you're right there, and you're going to make the best decisions. I'm sure you've always done it in the past, and I would expect nothing less than that. Les, this was a crushing decision. I mean, I was incredibly emotional about it as I talked with our presidents. I was emotional about it during my press conference on Saturday. You know, I grew up my father was a football student athlete. He was a coach. He was a professor. He was an athletics director. I had the great privilege to play college sports, football and tennis in college. And this has been my life. I've been around it. I love our student athletes. I love our coaches and our programs and everything about it. I really look at it as a family. And so the fact that we're shutting down things, at least in the short term, is just personally devastating. And I know it's hard and it's bitter for the student athletes and the coaches and all involved. But I hope we can all take comfort in the fact that we're trying to do the best we can, based on the information available and with the best interests of the participants in mind. Well, thank you for joining us. You've always been upright with us and letting us know exactly what's going on, and it's nothing different right now, and we appreciate it very much.
It's good to be with you this evening, Les.
Okay, great to talk to you. Dr. Jon Steinbrecher, who is the commissioner of the Mid-American Conference